Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. My question is to Dr. Mulwa, that you said DP calls you. Is there, when he calls you, is there any interference with the procurement process? Thank you.
Witness, you may now proceed to make the clarifications as sought by the honorable senators. You have 10 minutes to do that.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, sir, and honorable senators. I will try to answer the questions that have been put forth on the matter of the procurement of the long-lasting mosquito nets by the various senators. Mr. Speaker, sir, the Senator for Narok asked me to give a chronology of what happened so that I may be able to bring out the issue of the pressure that I got from His Excellency the Deputy President and alluded to the letters that I have submitted in regard to the tenders. Indeed, Mr. Speaker, sir, on around the end of April, the Global Fund wrote to the Kenya Global Fund Management Office, communicating a pre-award review decision to terminate the procurement of the 3.7 billion mosquito net tenders. Mr. Speaker, sir, this was after the procurement had been done earlier on in February by KEMSA, and it's a usual procedure during the procurement under the Global Fund, after the evaluation of the tenders, the evaluation report is shared with the Global Fund to authenticate if full procurement procedures and law have been followed. On review, the Global Fund realized that the tender, which the evaluation committee had recommended to be awarded to one Shobika Impex Limited, had an issue. And Mr. Speaker, I will refer to the bid bond, which I shared in the documents. In the motion, I think it's page is page 76 out of 85. Mr. Speaker and honorable senators, if you look at the bid bond that I'm referring to, the bid bond down there has a stamp of the 21st of February 2023, having been received by one Monica at 9:37 a.m. Mr. Speaker, sir, this tender was running at the time this bid bond is being received. The tender was supposed to close on the 10th of March, but the earlier closure, this bid bond, did not come as part of the tender document. Usually, bid bonds are annexures to the tender document, and therefore, this bid bond came as an ordinary mail. Further, if you look on top of that page, it's written PD, which is Procurement Department, FY&F for your next necessary action, and I can confirm the signature for the CEO who was there before me on the 23rd of February while the tender was opening. In other words, Mr. Speaker, sir, this bid bond already had issues even before the tender closed and was opened. And therefore, the bid bond was submitted outside the tender document, which is already an irregularity in the procurement. Mr. Speaker, after the cancellation of these tenders, the Global Fund, this issue became brought an outcry, and as a result, a principal secretary, the CEO, and officials from the Ministry of Health and KEMSA were suspended as a result. The PS was actually dismissed. Mr. Speaker, sir, an investigation was instituted by the Public Procurement Regulatory Authority, the EACC, both houses of Parliament, both the National Assembly and the Senate, investigation onto the procurement anomalies. Mr. Speaker, one company wrote to us on around June 12th or thereabout, asking for return of the bid bond. This company was Shobika, and we were able to, we did not have the document because EACC and other investigating agencies had taken the original documents. And therefore, we wrote back and informed them of the state. And when July came, I think the investigations were happening, officers were recording statements, and that is when I got a call from the Deputy President asking me to surrender the bid bond to Dr. Rigathi Kino. On the same day, because I called EACC, I informed them that, and for the record, Honorable Speaker, I had never received a call from anyone above my cabinet secretary. This was the first time I received a call from a sitting deputy president and requesting for documents that were under investigations. Mr. Speaker, in my 15 years of public service, I had never been asked to do that. And therefore, I felt coerced, and I had to leave the business that I had for the day, go to EACC, follow up the bid bond so that I am able to retrieve it. I was actually able to write a letter to them and follow it up because I had written a letter earlier, and I followed up and sat there for 5 hours for them to discharge the bid bond. And on the same date, I wrote a letter and called for them to collect the bid bond. I think, Mr. Speaker, that explains the conversation and the pressure that I felt as an officer serving in public service. I have explained that the company that had been awarded this tender through the technical evaluation was Shobika Impex, whose local agent, sole agent, is Crystal Limited. Mr. Speaker, sir, I have walked the Senate through the conversation that I had with the question asked by Honorable Dr. Boni Alwale on what transpired and how I was able to get the bid bond. Yes, beyond the financial loss, Mr. Speaker, the nets that we were supposed to buy 14 million nets under KEMSA procurement. As a result of purchasing these nets through the Global Fund WAMBO system, we could only purchase 10.2 million nets. Global Fund could only supply 10.2 million nets. That means Kenyans lost 3 million or so nets as a result. Secondly, there was a delay. We were supposed to implement the distribution of nets to the public from September 2023. That was not possible as a result of the delays. We were only able to start distribution of the nets from January this year. In effect, there was a loss in terms of money, there was a loss in terms of number of nets, and 3, there was a loss in terms of citizens did not enjoy the protection that they would have gotten from the nets in the time that had been envisaged. Indeed, I can confirm, and I've already mentioned, that PS Josephine was dismissed, and acting CEO and other officers were also suspended. About following the law, when I got the call, Honorable Speaker and Senators, I was able to, consult the investigating authorities, and through correspondence, I was able to get the documents as per the law. And therefore, I did not in any way go out of the law as a result. Is the return of bid bond? Mr. Speaker, I'm told my time is up. Can I wind up?
To the remaining queries.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Speaker, whether return of bid bond is part of procurement, indeed return of bid bond is not part of the procurement process per se, but after the procurement process, return of bid bond is a usual procedure, because people had given commitments in banks, in insurances, and therefore returning bid bonds is a procedure. The extraordinary circumstance in this matter is, one, the bid bond that had been submitted was not part of the tender document per se, and number two, this was a matter that was under investigation. And therefore, for the Deputy President to push for the bid bond to be returned, it means that it was pushing for interference of an investigation that was already ongoing. I already gave account that I had to personally go to EACC to get the document. Mr. Speaker, I submit. Thank you.
There's some clarifications that are sought from Council Macharia.
Honorable Speaker and honorable members, Honorable Boni Khalwale asked a question from the law. Indeed, there's a hierarchy of laws. It's the Constitution, the laws, and subsidiary legislation. And I cannot purport to be teaching lawmakers how this is done.
5 minutes.
Yes, and so I say this with tremendous respect. The hierarchy of laws, the infrastructure of laws, is that there are provisions left in the Constitution as self-executing. The Constitution then delegates to Senate and the National Assembly the power to make laws to execute certain of its provisions. And to that extent, that statute carries constitutional authority because it is made pursuant to a constitutional provision. And that would be the case with the Political Parties Act. At Article 91 and Article 92, the Constitution prescribes what political parties and the regulation of political parties and coalitions must contain and must do. If a statute is unconstitutional, then the High Court, as it has done many times, then strikes down that statute as unconstitutional. The Political Parties Act, as currently framed, and the basis upon which these coalition agreements were drawn and registered, and a government formed on the basis of those agreements, have not been found to be unconstitutional. So we're not saying that any wrong was done. We're in fact saying everything was done in accordance with the Constitution and the law. That's number one. Number two, when His Excellency the Deputy President stands to make his response before you, amongst the things he'll be showing you in great detail with documentation and with videos is the lengths to which not only he, but his ultimate appointing authority, his boss, the President, and the entire government went to ensure that the development was spread across the country. And I think, as I demonstrated a few minutes ago here, the contracts themselves indicated that there would be need for flexibility to ensure that you're within the Constitution. That did not derogate from the requirement by the parties to implement and to obey and to ensure the contracts were implemented. So they were done constitutionally. And then finally, again, I think I keep emphasizing, they talked about government, they didn't talk about tribes, they didn't talk about regions, and they ensured that the constitutional requirements, as I think Senator Ediwiti had asked me, at Article 91 and 232 were complied with. Thank you very much.
Counsel for the National Assembly. There is a clarification sought by Senator Kavindu. If you may proceed to clarify, then we close and move to the third witness.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. The first question was whether there is any law preventing the Deputy President from intervening when they see any failures in the National Intelligence Service. The answer is that the oath of due execution of the office of the Deputy President, which is in the Constitution, it's part of our Constitution, prohibits the Deputy President from disclosing matters, especially those relating to national security, that are committed to a secrecy. And therefore, it was a violation of his oath of office. It was a violation of the Constitution to discuss matters of that nature at a time in the circumstances prevailing in a press conference broadcast to the whole world. There is a constitutional forum to raise those issues. And indeed, the Deputy President, I want to believe very many other officers, even ordinary citizens can write to that National Security Council if they have genuine grievances about its operations or its personnel or its capabilities and performance. Mr. Speaker, when that oath of office, which is part of our Constitution, says matters committed to the secrecy of the Deputy President are not to be divulged, it is an acknowledgement by our Constitution that there are certain matters which by their very nature, they are not to be broadcast. The Swahili say, usimwage mtama penye kuku wengi. Some things require discretion, they require you be tempered, and they require you know the forum and the occasion to do it. And therefore, it is no answer. Even if we were to accept, for argument's sake, that all the grievances the Deputy President had are factually correct, it will still be no answer to that charge. The second question was whether Justice Maina has made any complaint after the case was done. We are not aware of any complaint lodged by the Honorable Lady Justice Maina. But that question, Mr. Speaker, also tells you why this is an impeachable offense. Those who know our constitutional theory say judges hold neither sword nor the purse. The reason our Constitution protects judges and puts them in a special place is because, unlike politicians and the executive, they have no way and no forum of dealing with harassment from the political branches of government. But if we are wrong in that, Mr. Speaker, again, why I'm very happy with this question, you imagine, let's accept for argument's sake that indeed Justice Maina could have lodged a complaint, because it's possible she would have walked to a police station, met an OCS there, recorded a complaint and a statement. Dr. Mulo has just been here as a junior officer. The practicalities of an OCS, a police constable, summoning the Deputy President of the Republic to respond to a complaint, the whole specter of handcuffing, taking fingerprints, processing the Deputy President to take him to the magistrate's court to answer to a criminal offense, would subject that office to so much indignity. And because the design of our Constitution is that people holding certain offices, in fact, the constitutional text is that they should behave in a manner that brings honor and dignity to the office. It is to save the country the drama, the spectacle of a junior police officer, a junior prosecutor, harassing, arresting, prosecuting a deputy, and because we don't want to subject our democracy to this kind of showbiz. That is why this Senate is vested with the power of impeachment, and that is why our Supreme Court has said several times, as I pointed out yesterday, the test is not whether he is criminally liable or civilly liable, which is the business of the judiciary. I so submit, Mr. Speaker.
Now, Counsel for the National Assembly, you may call your third witness.
Honorable Speaker, distinguished senators, my name is Moses Kipkogei. Our next witness is Abdi Mahmoud from the EACC. He is a former witness who was called pursuant to the summons issued by this House at the request of the National Assembly. I request the Sergeant at Arms to call him from room 4.